Thank you again for having me here to go over the master plan. Again, my name is Micah Stryker. I'm a planner with the County Planning Commission, working on the team that's been working on the master plan with the city. So, and I know you've got a lot, meeting on your schedule and stuff, so I'll try to go through this, keep you on schedule. But so just a little bit about county planning. Our mission is to inform and provide services in support of the short and long-term comprehensive planning, quality of life, environment, and economic development of the Cuyahoga County and its cities, towns, and villages and townships. Since 2015, we've had a community master plan grant program. So we've been doing planning projects in over 20 communities so far from 2015. These are just the master plans. We've also done some other site plans, things like that for communities. So we are opening that up. And we're actually continuing to work in Brooklyn along with Parma and Old Brooklyn, looking at Brook Park Road, and that's through this program as well. But we also do countywide work. So we have a countywide data book, so it has a lot of data, demographics, things like that about the communities in the county. We just recently completed the Cuyahoga Greenways, which is active transportation within the county. And then we're currently undertaking a lakefront public access plan for the county. So all of our work can be found on our website, countyplanning.us. So a quick agenda for today. So there's a lot in the master plan, so I don't want to go through everything because we'd be here all night, and I don't think you want to do that. So really just going to go over an overview of the planning process, a little bit about how the master plan document is structured and how it's broken down, and then go over implementation, which is the most recent phase we've been through and kind of wrapping up into the draft plan itself. So first off, what is a master plan? So it's a long-term plan for how the community wants to grow in the future. And it's a policy guide. It's a tool for you all to use to help make decisions. It's not legally binding that everything in there has to be done exactly how it is. It's something that guides you to show, this is what the community has said, but you can make decisions differently depending on what comes up. Because it does provide for community input. It prepares the city and the residents for what you want in the future. It also allows you to help shape the development in the future to what you want. And it also gives a competitive advantage when you're applying for grants. A lot of grants, they want to say, oh, you've planned for this, this has community input, and they reward points for that as part of their scoring system. So how do we plan? So first, we establish a current snapshot of the city. Then we outline a vision that kind of drives the plan forward. And then we formulate goals and actions to help reach that vision. And then we prioritize those, because if you've had a chance to look through it, you'll notice there's a lot of things in there. You can't do them all at once. And so what are the most important things? What are we going to attack first? So the Brooklyn Master Plan had 6 steps. So the first 2, the community survey and current conditions, were done somewhat concurrently. So we reached out with a community survey to kind of gauge, what does the community think of itself? What are some of their thoughts and opinions on the community? What is important to them? But also we looked at demographics, housing, economic development, transportation issues, things like that, just so that we could get an understanding of what the major issues are in Brooklyn. And then from there we went to the community vision. Again, that broad overarching statement, and then goals and actions, and then finally implementation, like I said, where we developed priorities. Once we have all those, and where we are now is we take all those different draft documents and draft input, and we stitch them together into a combined, complete master plan document. And so up on our website as well, we have all the previous documents and a lot of the previous presentations, things like that. So if you have questions about what went on prior, you can also look there and find different things, or you can also reach out to me. I can provide those for you. Along with just those phases, we had several stakeholder groups that helped guide us through this process. We had a project team, which this was the mayor and department directors and other city staff, and they provided kind of on-the-ground, in-depth knowledge of the city, so things that they were dealing with on a day-to-day basis. They also reviewed documents, gave us feedback, and just kind of helped keep the process focused and moving forward. Then we had the steering committee, which was a larger cross-section of the community, made up of residents, business owners, local group organizations, that provide further knowledge, but also kind of their issues and perceptions that they've seen and that they're dealing with in the community, and they kind of help keep the scope of the document focused. And then finally, there's the public, and this was really anybody that was interested to show up to a public meeting. or reach out to the County Planning Commission or the city with questions or issues, respond to any of the meetings, online surveys, things like that. So the project team, we had 7 in-person and virtual meetings, plus just numerous document reviews. Same with the steering committee, there were 5 in-person meetings plus document reviews. And as far as public engagement, we've had 1 open house, 1 virtual presentation, and then this as well as presentation here. We'll include a follow-up survey, and we'll post the document online for people, for the public to go and review, respond. So as you've noticed and as you just previously discussed, with COVID, there's a lot of changing situations, so we're trying to push ahead with still planning and engaging neighborhoods and communities the best we can. So we've done a huge push to engage with virtual presentations, online video meetings, online surveys, electronic review of documents, things like that. So we're pushing forward and doing everything we can to keep the community's engaged, but also reach out to the public. And so at the end of August, early September, we had the virtual public presentation for this, for the action document. And I was able to meet with several of you to go over that document in more detail. But we posted a narrated PowerPoint presentation on our website. It had a survey accompanied by it, and all along with the draft itself. And the YouTube video or the presentation received 230 views, and we had over 122 survey responses. So, and that's what we see on par with our responses for during typical times. So we were really pleased to see that we were still getting the same level of response. And so, and we still reach out to the steering committee separately as well. So similarly, like I said, this presentation will be recorded, posted online, along with the draft master plan, along with a follow-up survey, and posted for a couple weeks here to let people respond and give us any feedback if they might have any comments. So moving on to kind of how the master plan document itself is structured and how we developed it. So like I said, we start with the community vision. So that's the broad statement, kind of, what does the community want to be in the future? And then we continually break that down into smaller, more focused areas until we get to action recommendations. So the specific actions that can be taken to achieve eventually those goals in that community statement. So what is a community vision? It's a broad idea for how the community wants to grow in the next 10 years, basically. So it's a kind of the mission statement of the community. And so it kind of creates the foundation for the document. It's kind of the keystone that pulls everything together, and everything kind of leads towards it. So then you have, underneath that, you have the master plan goals. These are the key building blocks that structure the document and form the recommended actions. So based on all of the initial input we got from the project team, from the steering committee, from the current conditions research, and from just other outreach that we had, we took all of that and we kind of tried to identify what are the main issues and categorize them into several key areas, and so that we can kind of build the document recommendations around. So those are the master plan goals. Then under each of those, we kind of took those same issues that we used to identify where are those kind of common themes. We kind of clarified those and kept those focused to kind of even to focus those goals even further. So that, because if you're talking about economic development, that can go in a lot of different ways. But what are those main issues that are focused or that Brooklyn is dealing with? And so with those in hand, we can move with action recommendations. So those specific actions that'll achieve those key objectives, that'll achieve those goals, and take the city towards its community vision. And in the document, we supported these with local examples, regional examples, try to find areas where similar projects have been successful, but also provide renderings, conceptual ideas, pictures of where either this has been implemented here, or this is what it could potentially look like through a rendering or something like that. So the community vision statement for Brooklyn. Brooklyn will be a city that strives to maintain a balanced community by providing residents with opportunities for recreation, high-quality services, and civic engagement, while utilizing best practices for managing economic growth and redevelopment in targeted areas. So with this vision statement, we really wanted to emphasize kind of the balance of economy, but also neighborhoods, but also the amenities and services that are important for residents, and that targeted redevelopment is a critical issue for the city. So with all that information, we came up with 5 different goals for the Brooklyn Master Plan. They were strengthen Brooklyn's identity, enhance parks and recreation amenities, promote a strong local economy, exceptional services and facilities, and a livable community. And so I'm going to go into each one a little bit here, just to give a general idea of how we address issues throughout the master plan and use the goal and the key objectives. So for goal 1, we have strengthen Brooklyn's identities, and so one of the key objectives, and a lot of this was about highlighting, how do you highlight Brooklyn in the area? How do you showcase Brooklyn to the Cleveland metropolitan area? It's got a lot of strengths, and how do you kind of bring those to the top so people, when they think of Brooklyn, what do they think of? And so one of those was, one of the key objectives was take steps to strengthen Brooklyn's community identity and physical sense of place. So for this, and what we did for a lot of similar things is, like I said, we talked about conceptual ideas. So we developed some conceptual streetscapes. So this one on the top would be your left. Is Memphis Avenue, and adding banners, adding decorative poles, wayfinding signage, potential for decorative median, but also at the bottom right you'll see just some potential for new signage, whether it's gateway signage or signage to the civic campus, City Hall, or just again wayfinding on a trail or on a sidewalk to a major place. So just trying to show how that can be implemented in the city. For enhanced parks and recreation amenities, again, parks and recreation are huge for residents' quality of life, and it's one of those things that in every community they want to have good parks, and they want to be able to have recreation opportunities. And so for here, one of the ones I want to highlight is increased trails and trail connections throughout the city, especially to regional amenities, parks, and recreational assets. So as part of the Cuyahoga Greenway study that I mentioned earlier, it looked at active transportation throughout the entire county, and it noted where there are existing trails, but also where there are critical gaps. And as you can see, kind of right here, you have Big Creek Reservation at the south in Parma, and you have the zoo right here in the northeast. But there's not really any connection. But if you can create that connection, you can connect all the way up to downtown Cleveland, all the way out to Strongsville. And not only are you connecting your residents to those places, you're also connecting other residents through your community, or other communities through your community. So people are going to drive through or ride their bike through, from Parma up to the zoo maybe, or something like that. So it's a critical gap, and there's, having that type of amenity is becoming much more prevalent in communities and desired by residents. Promote a strong local economy. So this is kind of the economic development goal. So a lot of things such as supporting local businesses and storefront renovation. But one I want to highlight here is update land use and development standards to include modern, mixed use, and sustainable development. So the city's zoning ordinance is aging. It's younger than some in the area, but it's still, I think the 90s, was when it was last overhauled. I'm not positive on that, but it's showing its age now. It doesn't have a lot of the modern development types that people want that can create redevelopment opportunities. So, updating that, adding design standards and other modern development incentives, and can really help spur redevelopment of some areas that need it. One of the things we put into the document is a future character areas map. Like we said, we didn't want to just say adopt mixed use, but we know it's important that it be targeted in appropriate areas, because if you just say mixed use everywhere, residents are going to be upset. But that's not the goal. The goal is to say, where can this be implemented to where it can have the greatest effect and really uplift the community and not be a detriment. And so really looking at right now kind of the Ridge Park Square, Brook Park Road, I-480 area. There's a lot of empty space there with parking lots, and it's commercial, so that's a good opportunity for mixing uses there, whether it's retail with office space, or maybe there's an opportunity for residential there somewhere down the line. it's just making that a possibility and being open to those opportunities. But also, Biddulph Plaza was also another area where we looked at, and we'll have some renderings I'll talk about here in a second. Goal 4, exceptional services and facilities. So this one deals a lot with kind of where the city interacts with residents, so the services they provide, but also the facilities. And throughout this process, one of the first things was facilities and the need for new facilities. And I know, the city continued looking at that and studying that. So modernize city facilities, especially police, city hall, and recreation center, to address those long-term issues. And so we knew the city was working with engineering consultants to look at that more detail. So we didn't really want to step in there and step on their toes and end up with competing plans or anything like that. So we focused more on kind of the public right-of-ways, areas like that, and just focusing on basically policy ideas or things to include, not necessarily actually looking at where things should be or what should be included in a building or how it should be laid out or anything like that. But for everything we've seen, new facilities was heavily supported throughout the community, especially the police station. And the final goal is a livable community. And so this kind of keeps with the neighborhoods and make sure neighborhoods are livable and safe. And so some things with sort of crosswalks and safe crossing, but also one of the major issues that always came up was supporting residents' efforts to maintain and modernize existing homes and expanding those housing opportunities. So Brooklyn has a pretty homogeneous housing stock. It's all about the same age, it's all about the same size, and but it's all in relatively good condition, but it doesn't have those modern amenities, modern layout, modern features that both young families and even seniors are looking for. So a lot of our action recommendations, like we were talking about the CRA and the community reinvestment area, but also the housing, forget the word, just upkeep and maintenance of the properties, so that program through the county and that the city is also matching. And so strengthening those things where you can, if it's a possibility, but also looking at, is there a way the city can try to work on maybe some potential pilot projects to show how, once these are done, what can it do? What does it cost? How can it increase the value of your homes and things like that? And then with all of these, so throughout the document, there's a lot of more general policies, but also maybe some specific actions, but that are maybe tailored to a specific place. Throughout this, there were areas that were highlighted by residents and the city that were like, these areas need special focus, or these are important, and those major commercial hubs, as well as major commercial corridors, and so we use those as planning focus areas to kind of show, one, address those areas specifically, but also two, to kind of show where some of these more general policies or actions or can be applied and what the potential for their impact can be. So the focus areas were the I-480 and Ridge Park Square area, Civic Campus, Ridge Road and Memphis Avenue intersection, Biddulph Plaza, and then corridors on Memphis Avenue, Ridge Road, and Brook Park Road. And so we're not going to go through all of these, but just want to highlight Biddulph Plaza. And what we try to do with a lot of these is put together some conceptual drawings of what could happen there. What if the zoning were updated and changed, if you looked at some of these certain areas. So looking at parking lots, whether it's increased landscaping, allowing out parcel development, looking at updating the facade, and then even on some of these others, we look at what are the if you allow mixed use on the site, what are the potentials for moving buildings around and adding townhomes or something like that, whether it's the Giant Eagle, or if you flip it around and you keep the Giant Eagle there. Well, not that you keep the Giant Eagle stays, and you build housing where the current commercial building is, the strip mall is. So just trying to show the possibilities. Again, these are conceptual, nothing really happens without a developer and a city that has the potential. So we're saying if you look to update your zoning code to allow these types of developments, they can happen and they can bring these new types of developments in. So with that, I'll go over the implementation. So a plan is only as good as its implementation. So we don't want this to sit on the shelf and not do anything. And so far, the city is really taking charge and going and pursuing some of these things already. So what we've done with implementation is take the goals and actually organize them into a table, and then with that table provide items like what is the priority, what are the timelines and costs, are there potential partners that can help with this, but also are there funding sources and a way to keep track of it. So I'm just kind of going to walk through the table here and kind of show you what I'm talking about. So we have the goal and we have actions underneath it, and underneath each main action there are kind of some supporting actions. So action 1 might be a little more broad, and those supporting actions are there to kind of break it down a little bit further even. And so the first column here we have the priority level. So we use a star system. So 3 stars is the highest priority, 1 star is the lowest. So high priority is something that should be pursued first. So it's integral to achieving the community vision, has the most impact, or it's relatively easy to implement, and it's something you can get done easily. Medium priority might not have quite as big an impact as a high priority, or maybe there's obstacles to implementation, or maybe there's something that needs to be done prior to this action being done. So if something needs to be studied, another study needs to be done to say, well, how do we want to address this issue? You have to do that study first. So that next step isn't as high a priority because you need to do that study first. And then the low priority, these are things that will have the least impact, or maybe there's a large discrepancy between the cost and the benefit, or maybe it's a longer term vision or goal that it's dealing with, and funds might not be ready for that, or maybe it just does something if a certain situation arises, you get funding, that's when it would be feasible to do. We also include a projected timeline. So this is, basically, and this is not from the time the master plan is done, but from when somebody would say, I'm going to complete this action, I'm going to start it, that would be the time that would start. So try to just give a general timeline of how long it would take. And so some things like, certain studies or updating certain, text or administrative issues, those are going to be a year maybe. But when you start looking at some of the larger scale infrastructure projects, you're looking at 5, 7, 8 years, the life of the plan. We also identify responsible parties and partners. So these are, along with the city, these are the local, the regional government organizations, the regional groups that can really, the city can engage to help complete an action. So whether it's providing, professional guidance, legal advice, or if it's something that they're really in, ODOT, if you're going to do a road project, ODOT might be very integral to getting that done. But also there might be potential funding sources, but they're parties that you can engage to help you get that action done. And that's in the table. That each legend, each symbol links to a group or an organization. Then we have estimated cost. So again, we use dollar signs instead of stars. $3 signs is highest, down to $1 sign. So really we're trying to just give you a cost estimate range of what it takes to do that. So and that can affect prioritization and things like that as well. So high cost would be, we consider kind of anything over $500,000. Those are your major infrastructure projects, looking at new facilities, things like that. Medium cost, anything 100 to 500,000. So looking at maybe more targeted infrastructure or minor infrastructure issues, or maybe smaller things that are citywide. So looking at maybe some of the branding and implementation or something like that. Then low cost, like I said, some of the administrative things, maybe updating a code issue, or some of the smaller issues. And we also, county planning, we keep a updated table of grant sources. We try to keep it as, it's always changing, but we try to keep it as up to date as possible. We try to identify what is it, what is it for, who's it through, what different projects can be done through. We also try to include a link and a brief description. So it's always changing. So, but like say you want to take up an action, you look at the action, say, okay, we're ready to implement this. We need funds. You can look through this table and try and find some areas where you can find funding. This is all changing. We try to keep ours up to date. So if at any time in the next few years, you're like, we want to make sure if this is still up to date, you can also check with us, and we'll try to keep everybody up to date. They include everything from private foundations, but also government programs, and whether it's for trails, or whether it's for environmental protection or arts and culture. There's a lot of different things out there. And then finally, we have a column for status so that you can keep track. So as you can see here, this one says in process. So this is one that the city's mayor's already kind of moved forward with. It's one that's very important. It's a community branding process. So that's why it also doesn't have a priority level, since they're already undertaking it. But you want to know what have we accomplished? What are we doing? Where's the status of this? So it's a way to keep track, and so that you can see what you've accomplished in the master plan, and kind of celebrate your successes. So just a few comments on implementation strategies. So the first thing is to just adopt this master plan as a guide for the city. Again, like I said, it's a guide. It's a policy tool to help guide you. But it does not determine your decisions on anything. There's a lot of different things that go into something. So don't feel that if this is adopted, it's going to force your hand on anything. Assign city personnel departments responsibility for action. So if somebody's responsible for something, they're more likely to get it accomplished. So if people know that, hey, this is what we would like you to accomplish, they can go do it. Form a plan implementation committee that meets regularly to review the progress. So, this is it's a living document. Things change. Priorities are going to change. Like no one could foresee COVID coming, so that's going to change finances and how you proceed on things. So this document is meant to be reviewed regularly and updated, so that you can say, are these actions still pertinent? Are they still priorities, still what we want them? Have we tried actions or looked into actions that we don't think are feasible or don't think are priority anymore? So you want to kind of update those things and check them off, and also update on what you have accomplished as well. And so not only form that plan implementation committee, but also review the plan, update those actions and priorities, and then report that out, whether that's as a report, or if it's a report to the city, or just a presentation, however that is. There's a lot of different ways that can be. There's a lot of different forms that plan implementation committee can take. Some people just kind of keep the project team and keep it going. Some people have a broader group of city staff and council, and even including residents, and almost like the steering committee. So really it's a matter of deciding what works for the city. So next steps, we do want to know what the community thinks of the draft. So again, like I said, we'll be posting it online, posting with the presentation and a feedback comment form. What are the priorities? Do they match what the community thinks? Should they be higher or lower? Are there questions or concerns about any of the actions, anything like that? And so that online comment form, so it's a SurveyMonkey, and you can either click on that link, or you can go to countyplanning.us. There's under the Brooklyn Project page, there's a page specifically for this master plan. It has the draft master plan on it, has this presentation, and it has a link to the survey and some other information as well. We'll leave that open till December 6th. We can leave that open a little longer if we need to. Just give it about 2 or 3 weeks for the public to review everything and provide comments, and for you as well to look through it and provide us comments as well. And then once that's closed, we'll review all those comments, make updates as needed, and we'll finalize the master plan. And at that point, it'll be the city's document. And so at that point, you can take it and adopt it and start pursuing those actions. So like I said, at this point, it's, once that's done, it's adopt it, make it official city policy, and then find an action you care about, get to work. Same for residents. Residents can get engaged as well. If there's something they're passionate about, they should, get involved. And then, like I said, the city's already taken steps towards starting some of these actions already. The branding process, and also study of Brook Park Road, and even the civic campus as well. So, any questions or issues? If you have questions, I can answer a few now. I know you have more meeting to get to, so I don't want to take too long. But if you have issues or questions, or if you can get through looking at it and you want to discuss it with me, feel free to contact me, reach out with your questions, or we can set up a time to talk and discuss it. I'm more than happy to do that, and I'd love for it to hear your feedback. So, any quick questions or?
Just a real quick question.
Yes.
And the goal is to get it completely finished by the end of the year.
Yes, we'll have the draft document will be ready by the end of the year. Adoption, the adoption process can vary depending on what your process is, but the document itself should be done before Christmas. So,
thanks, Micah.
So, any other questions? Like I said, at any time, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions.
I'm sure all of us have a lot of questions, but unfortunately we have to go through. So, yeah, please feel free to email Micah.
Yeah, the mayor has my contact information that she can, if not, and it's there, it's on the website, so, and I look forward to any feedback you have. So, thank you very much for your time.
Very thorough, thank you.
Thank you.